Today's openings begin with Barkeep Brown Ale from TransCanada Brewing in Winnipeg. They describe it as having familiar notes of roasted chocolate, espresso, and dark cherry, along with fruity aromas and a light carbonation. That does taste familiar. It's quite nice, actually. I like that. So first thing in is something that I ordered, but because so many of these things come through reshipping warehouses in Canada, I can't tell you what's in it because there's no customs wise on it. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. There's actually two things in here. Let's see what the first one is. It is some sort of a module with a relay on it and a massive diode. On the back, it has labels for battery plus and minus, DC plus and minus, and out plus and minus. The relay is a 5-volt relay coil. We have a little chip here. We have an inductor and a couple of capacitors. So there's probably some sort of buck regulating going on, I would guess. The chip is an XL7005A from L-Semi. I would have expected to say XL-Semi, but whatever. Because this is an in voltage and out voltage and a battery voltage, this might be a little kind of UPS battery backup kind of thing. Wonder what that chip is doing. Let's check the listing and see if we can figure this out. After much searching through my purchase history, this is a power failure automatic switching battery backup lithium battery module DC 5 to 48 volts universal emergency converter that I paid $4.59 for. So yeah, it is basically a UPS. DC power from the wall comes in over here. There's a battery over here, which apparently it charges. And then there's a load over here, and the relay switches between power coming from the wall or power coming from the battery. And it claims to work on source and load voltages between 5 and 48 volts. So that's going to be what this chip is a buck converter, I would guess, to knock down the input voltage to the 5 volts that the relay wants. So if I'm understanding all this correctly, it is not charging the battery, but you can charge the battery separately, and that big honking diode prevents the battery charge from backfeeding into here. Okay, so it can work with lead acid. If you need to use lithium, put your own battery protection on it. Okay, yeah, please use special lithium battery charger. Okay, I have to play with this thing a little bit. Let's see what the other thing in that package was. Oh, looks like a bunch of nut drivers, or at least nut driver bits to go with my drill or my impact driver, whatever. And these ones are in metric from 5mm up to 13mm. As I've mentioned before, even though Canada is officially a metric country, there's a lot of stuff that's not typically metric in the stores, in the tool stores specifically. And when it is really expensive, or a lot more expensive than it should be compared to the Imperial stuff. So slowly stocking up on my metric tooling, and I think that should come in handy. 9-piece set, 5mm to 13mm hex socket sleeves, nozzles, nut driver set, screwdriver set, blah, 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 blah. I paid $7.06 for these, and I don't remember there being shipping on them when I ordered them back in January. So the product description just has more pictures and stuff. But the other thing I notice is the ones that they show in the pictures have this little neck down in here, which when you're going into a driver, not a drill, but a driver chuck, that's how they latch on. And the ones that I got don't have that. They're just straight shanks. So they won't be held in, unless I suppose I take a Dremel to them and weaken the shank and just put a little recessed notch in them. That's not ideal, but these are relatively cheap, so maybe I will modify them as I start using them. Or I'll just use them in a standard Jacobs chuck and it'll hold on to them just fine. We're off to a pretty good start. Let's see what has come from anonymous donors to my P.O. box. It is 5 little screw terminals for PCBs. These are tiny little guys too. Now, these are a little bit smaller than the ones that I'm used to, but they should still fit in the standard. Oh, they don't. Well, that's surprising. They don't fit in the standard hole pattern, but they will fit diagonally if you want to do it that way, which actually might come in handy occasionally. The typical ones are these ones here, and they fit across a couple of holes like that with one in between. They fit nice and tightly down in there. These ones are a different spacing. Huh. Had not encountered those before. It might be interesting to try and find. Yeah, 3.5 millimeter pitch is correct. Huh. That's not what I expected originally, but anyway, I will send you to this search here, sorted price plus shipping lowest, of course. Screw terminal 3.5 millimeter 2-pin should find it, and right now you can get 10 of them for $1.35 Canadian with free shipping. That's a hell of a deal if you actually need these. Cool. All right, next thing in. Again, reshipping warehouse doesn't say what it is. Flat and a little bit bendy. What are you? An envelope. Oh, FEP release film for 3D printer. Okay. That is exactly what this is. I ordered this just as spare parts for my resin printer. The FEP sheet is the plastic sheet that sits at the bottom of the printing vat, and it's your build surface basically. The resin sticks to it fairly well, but not so well that it doesn't peel off when the build plate is lifting off. And yeah, it is essentially considered a bit of a consumable. Let me just carefully get this open, and I will get the resin vat from my printer, and I will show you how this goes. So here is the vat from my resin 3D printer. You pour the resin in here. The image shines up through the bottom. The image of each layer shines up through the bottom with UV light and cures the resin. And then the build plate, after each layer cures, the build plate lifts off a little bit, allowing more resin to go in. It goes back down to touch there, or slightly above that, just by the thickness of a layer, and the light shines with the pattern again, and it repeats. But as that peels off, this thing flexes each and every time, and as you're over time, it gets a little bit scuffed and scratched. I'm not sure if you can see those scratches there. Those are actually not really scratches. Those are stretch marks from this thing flexing as the layers get peeled off. And there's another little a bit of deformation there. And it's not perfectly clear anymore, even though I have cleaned it, and I'm going to have to clean it again because it just got fingerprints on it. But eventually, over time, it just gets more and more cloudy, and your layers get less and less distinct, and eventually, if you're really unlucky, it leaks. So here is a package of 6 new sheets. They have protective film on both sides of them. That's why they look cloudy. But, those are to replace that. And as you can see, to replace them, you have to undo all of these screws all the way around, and then that piece comes up and off. You put the new film in there, you compress it down evenly all the way around, kind of like you're tightening head bolts on a car or something like that. Work your way around, slowly tightening it down, and eventually it stretches out like a drum skin like that. And I think these ones are a little bit bigger. Yeah, so there'll be a little bit of excess around the edge, and you trim it off with a knife outside there, and you're done. Not sure how long this thing lasts. This one has 2.5 bottles of resin gone through it so far, and it's still printing okay as long as I keep this clean, but as I showed you, there are some wrinkles and creases and stuff in there, so it is going to give up the ghost at some point, and I'd like to replace it before the print quality gets crap or it starts leaking. Either of those are really bad situations. So there we go. And these are not official ELEGOO ones. These are just from a third-party seller that I found on eBay or AliExpress or someplace. Hang on, I will show you. FEP film for ELEGOO, Mars 5, a whole bunch of different brands of 3D printer. I got 6 pieces of 210 by 150 by 0.15 millimeter thick for $24.38 with free shipping. And there's basically how you put it on, just as I described. And here is ELEGOO's official website and the stuff that they sell, which is the official stuff, but a 5-pack is $31.19 is what they sell it for. And that's currently on sale. But it is exactly the same stuff. So of course I got it from AliExpress. Next in, another mystery from my P.O. box. Thanks to the various anonymous donors who keep sending stuff in. I'm always surprised. I'm always entertained to find out what you guys think I need, or that I should look at, or whatever. It is another RFID kit. That makes 3 of them that have been donated so far. As we saw before, it comes with an RFID key tag and an RFID card, a couple of header pins, and the reader module itself. This thing will work with any of your common microcontrollers. I've just demonstrated it before with the cheapest Arduino and also with Raspberry Pi Pico. You can use it with ESP32s or ESP8266 or any of the variety of Arduinos available. And it just allows you to do access control and things like that. You can, on these cards, put up to 1K of data and read them out. I demonstrated that with an Arduino a very, very long time ago. I'll put that video up in the corner there. But yeah, that is another one to add to my collection. Thank you to my anonymous donors. So here is the search that'll find them. RFID RC522. That is the standard that they run on. If you're lucky, you can get them at eBay auction for as low as 29 cents free with free shipping. But normally they go for about $1.50 or thereabouts. As I said, you can use them for access control to physical hardware like doors. You can have them unlock your computer if you use the right code on your microcontroller. You can do all sorts of access control-y kind of things. Neat things to play with. And the final item for today, the last and, as usual, the largest item. Doesn't say what it is, so let's just get in here. It's a box with padding, SKU, doesn't say. A couple of big heavy cables with probes on them on top. Card, Chinese manual, metal strip, okay. USB cable, and I believe this is a battery spot welder. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Those guys just plug in there. Those look actually like the terminal out of an XT100 connector, just sitting naked to the world with a bit of heat shrink on them. USB powered, I guess. There is English on the other side of the manual. Okay. Color screen spot welder. Right. Let me just read through this a little bit. Okay, so it is in fact a battery-powered, rechargeable spot welder. Currently, the batteries inside it are only at 3.5 volts, so 3%. So I am going to charge this thing up before I demonstrate it and play with it. All right. Well, that should be interesting to play with. And I've got a bunch of salvaged batteries from vapes that I found on the street that I wouldn't mind welding together into packs. So I guess that's what that is nickel strip for battery projects. Okay. The manual in English is, I mean, it's not great, but it's not the worst that I've ever seen. it has common mistakes for newbie section, so that's kind of nice of them to do. Anyways, I will charge this thing up, and I'll go through it in its own dedicated video in the future. So I think this should be a useful thing to have around, assuming that it works. Mini spot welder, 0.1 to 0.25 millimeter nickel welding machine, 18650 battery spot welding. Got this from DIY More Modules. I bought a few things from them in the past. They tend to have a lot of your Arduino modules and things, but I paid $57.38 Canadian plus just about $5 shipping, which is the cheapest that I was able to find. Oh, they're currently out of stock right now. That's annoying. Anyways, I will link you to this regardless. The related stuff down below also has other sellers that are selling similar things, including that looks like Alice's logo there. So yeah, they are available in various different places. They're a little bit more expensive. Hopefully these guys get them back in. Anyway, there's the specs on it. It's got an LCD color display. It's got 30 adjustable gears, gear switching, welding more accurate. You know, the manual has better English than the listing. Oh, it can also be a power bank. Great. Spot welding pin is longer than 40 centimeters, flexible, yada yada. Right, so voltage 4.2 volts, that's the lithium cells that are in it. Welding current between 6 and 1200 amps. Battery capacity 5000 milliamp hours. Sure. Overheat protection takes 2 to 3 hours to charge. So included, we have 1 spot welder, 2 spot welding pins, 1 data cable, charging cable, thank you very much, 1 bare green paper. Yeah, what is that all about? Is that just like fish paper, insulation paper? Maybe. And then 1 practice nickel sheet, chunk of strip, sure. And there's the contents of today's Mailbag Monday haul. Another real wide variety of stuff. These metric nut driver inserts, nut bits for my power driver will come in really handy, both here and out in the garage. This little battery backup UPS-ish kind of switching module, I'm intrigued by that and I want to play with it, but as I said, I think I've got another different one ordered, so when the second one shows up, I will play with the two of them together and compare and contrast and whatnot. I've got these screw terminals, which are not the same pin spacing that I'm used to, but since they do fit diagonally in standard pins, or if I ever get around to actually making my own PCBs, those will probably be handy things to have. Another one of these RFID kits. I've played with those in the past, and they're kind of neat things to have around for various different projects. Spare FEP sheets for my 3D printer. Again, it's consumables, so when you've got consumables, it's always useful to have some spares on hand because they will fail at the least opportune time. That's just the way things work. And then there is this battery spot welder here. I guess technically you could spot weld anything up to the relevant thickness that this thing can handle, but it is intended for, and I plan to use it for spot welding lithium-ion batteries, because I know in the past I have soldered onto them, and that's bad form. I know it is. People have yelled at me for it before. It is dangerous if you put too much heat into a lithium cell because it can overheat, and overheating, as we all know, leads to all kinds of catastrophe on lithium batteries. So hopefully this will make me a little bit more professional, a little bit safer, and it's just generally nice to have another tool in the house. This is probably one of the more expensive tools that I've bought. I was getting offered to review something similar, much more expensive one, but I figured that would probably be out of the price range of most of you guys that are in just doing hobby electronic stuff. So I went and found the cheapest one and bought it myself to try it out. Thanks for watching, everybody. As always, thanks to my Patreon supporters, to my anonymous donors, to my YouTube channel members, and of course to viewers like you. Always appreciated. I will talk to you later.